Afternoon, everyone. I'm Ryan Patrick, Certified Financial Planner, and I'd like to start this week's video by thanking you for having off from last week's video. Last Friday was a blast. I went on a little mini trip to Orlando, went to Epcot with my girlfriend and her mother who was in town visiting. We had a great time. It's always a great time at the Disney parks, but we enjoyed all the different countries, tried the different food and drinks, and sampled the entertainment in France and Mexico and Italy and Germany and so on and so forth. So a really fun time, and I highly recommend a trip to Epcot for any of you who haven't had the experience yet. This week, though, I'd like to shift the topic to stereotypes in investing. Certain things have perpetuated themselves over time, particularly through the talking heads and pundits on TV that make proclamations, all or nothing proclamations. It's always important to remember that they're not financial advisors, and essentially they are entertainers. Their job is to produce ratings and get talked about on Twitter and social media. Attention is their goal. Well, a lot of times attention isn't the same as good fact or personalized financial advice. So a lot of times you'll get different stereotypes that perpetuate about what's good, what's bad, and it's always an all or nothing proposition. One of my favorites is Susie Orman came out and said that annuities were terrible. She was very vehemently angry about annuities, didn't like annuities, and a lot of people watched Susie Orman. She had a very powerful voice and a very, very large audience, so people started saying all annuities were bad. Well, if you want to look at that a little closer, a lot of folks are outliving their money these days. One of the primary concerns of folks that are aging is that they're going to end up outliving their money in retirement. With the life expectancy going up and up and up and medicine advancing at the rate that it is logical for people who have a family history of longevity to insure against living too long, which is what an annuity does. That's one of the stereotypes that became a popular catchphrase, but annuities can be great in certain situations. That's just one example. Another is that as you get later into life, into your 50s and 60s, you should be getting out of equity. You should no longer be involved in the market. You should get into bonds, and that's the way it is. Well, I'll give you a few little insights on that. One is that these days you're going to be living longer than you thought. People are going to be living longer and working longer than we originally expected to, at least the same way our parents or their parents did. So you're going to look at living longer and working longer, and usually that means that you're going to have to be in the market longer to find the money you need to make it through your retirement and to keep growing your money over time at a steady pace. You may not want to be in that growth fund anymore, or in those more aggressive small stocks, but there's a pretty good chance you're going to want to be in some type of equity. It may be a mega blue chip, dividend-producing equity, but it may take longer to outpace inflation and keep up with the years that you're going to live in retirement that maybe your parents didn't or their parents didn't. So there's another stereotype that might not quite be a reality today. One of my others is that a lot of people believe that you need to buy a house young. It's important to have real investments young. You want to get a house, and owning is the only important thing. And I like to tell people that that's not necessarily always true, especially young folks who jump into it a little bit too quickly may not know that if they're not going to be in the area for a very long time, it's going to be very hard. If the market takes a downturn, they have to move. They're going to take a hit if the housing market takes a hit, and the housing market is actually much more volatile than the stock market, which is one of my favorite stereotypes. People are very afraid of the market, but they don't really think about the housing market as unstable, when in fact it is very unstable. And not that house buying is bad or buying a home is a bad choice, but you need to think about that in context of how long you're going to be there, and if you'll still have enough money in your cash reserves and emergency funds to put down the down payment. So these are just a few examples of stereotypes that we see on TV, we get advice from friends, and we feel like these are Bible truth. My advice to you guys is to look at your own personal situation, because everybody is so different. We just cannot live in this world of financial absolutes where we say that one thing is bad or one thing is good, or by a certain age you have to have accomplished or invested in a certain thing in a certain way, when that's just not true. You are a unique financial entity. Just as much as the person next to you has a different financial life with goals, so do you. And then on a non-financial note, I'd like to talk about a stereotype that's been perpetuated on television this week. Unfortunately, a video was released of men in a fraternity making a very obscene, racially insensitive video, which obviously was offensive to many folks, and it made it seem as if all fraternity men were very, very bad. And the stereotype is that fraternity men are just pounding beer and taking risks, and may not be the nicest guys on the block, but I will tell you that I was involved in a fraternity in college that did some very nice things. I'm coming up on a 10-year reunion of a team of Pi Kappa Phis that joined me when I was an undergrad. We all raised money, and we met in D.C., and we helped people with disabilities, and we cycled over 60 days and 4,000 miles from San Francisco to D.C. Took our summer, gave up the opportunity to work, the opportunity to hang around at the pool, and we did something really good for charity. So maybe there's a reminder that, maybe at University of Oklahoma there's one bad fraternity. There are many good SAEs out there, despite what happened. There are many good fraternity men out there. I think they just need to be cast in a more positive light. Hopefully this will be a learning experience, and maybe what other fraternity men do will remind the community that there are a lot of good men in Greek life. So until next week, thank you again for watching, and I will have a new topic and a fresh perspective next week. This is Ryan Patrick, Certified Financial Planner. Have a great weekend.